Hey, it's Rafael Cintron here. In this video, me and my Facebook ad manager from my private mentorship group are going to show you a $200,000 Shopify and Facebook ads case study. You're going to learn a lot from the lessons that he used to take that brand to over $200,000 with very high profit margins. Make sure you watch until the end to learn all the amazing lessons. And really quick before we start, our 5-day live Shopify training is starting very soon. If you want to learn everything you need to know to take your business to the next level, Shopify Dropshipping, everything about e-commerce in a 5-day live setting where you can ask any questions you want every single day in a private Facebook group. Click that link in the description, join the 5-day live training, and I look forward to seeing you there. Hey, it's Rafael Cintron here. In this training, I'm joined by Dominic. Dominic is one of the Facebook ad managers in our private community, and he's going to show you today how one of his clients made over $200,000 in sales in their e-commerce brand. The lessons from that, a step-by-step basically case study that you can replicate. You can learn a lot from it, and I'm going to ask him a bunch of questions so that you can get a lot of knowledge and value from this training. We have nothing to sell you in this video. Let's get to it. Dominic, welcome to the channel.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me, buddy. I'm excited to go over everything that we have to go over. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. So let's go into the slideshow that you prepared and basically give us a background of what the shop is, what do they sell, what do they do, and how did you basically start off with that client?
I want to really preface this as well too, because this is a healthy e-commerce brand that we started working with. So they were already doing pretty well in terms of revenue. They struggled with their profitability, which is, I think, the majority of e-commerce brands out there kind of struggle with that. This was a women's fashion brand. They were a medium to high ticket fashion brand, and their products ranged from anywhere from $40 to $750, kind of a big jump, but they did very well. And they mainly targeted a very higher end sort of clientele. So the people that we were targeting, it was very niche. Our audience sizes were actually quite low. And so we basically had that to all work with. But the good thing was they had a lot of data, but they basically approached us with their goal to increase their ROAS. Of course, every e-commerce brand wants to increase their ROAS. But like I said, they had the revenue, they had really good data, but they just struggled in a few areas. And we could tell really initially when we did meet with them that because they kept things in-house, I think the person who was running their Facebook ads really struggled with certain metrics and didn't really understand how to put certain pieces of the puzzle together. And what we found out later on through really our whole onboarding process is they just lacked preparation in how they actually put their ads together, which again, we're going to go over here. But the great thing is, and like I mentioned here, is they had a great brand that they've been building for years. And so we definitely lucked out in that sense where their warm traffic was just incredibly engaged. And so we really leveraged that and then just focused on their top of the funnel traffic. And then as you can see here, basically within a 3-month collaboration, we were able to spend a very minimal amount of ad spend, but generate incredible return on ad spend here, which was crazy. This is probably one of the craziest clients that we've ever worked with for sure.
That's awesome. So they have a brand that they also do custom packaging for. You said they're trying to become the Gymshark, but in a fashion industry, right?
Exactly. Yeah. They actually, so I think they started their brand around 2-3 years ago as a drop shipping brand. So they utilized a lot of the same sort of suppliers that a lot of drop shippers utilize, but they started to transition when they started to make a lot more revenue. And now they pretty much handle everything in-house and they manufacture their products. They warehouse their products, their fulfillments all on their end as well too. So they pretty much control all of their operations and they've really dialed in on, like you said, like product packaging, everything. So now they have a little bit more, room to kind of control like where they want to really go with the brand, but it took time. But again, them having that brand really helped us like sustain and establish the results that we did for sure.
And obviously use the data for lookalike audiences retargeting. So that's definitely a big plus. So let's keep going. Let's keep going to the details.
So what they did wrong, like what most e-commerce brands do, and this is a big thing because I think a lot of drop shippers and a lot of e-commerce brands, they slip up in a few areas, and a lot of people, they typically think that they're going wrong with how they're actually setting up their ads, But running ads is actually very, very simple. Like you just have to follow pretty much all the steps and go through it slow when you're creating your campaigns. But it's actually the resources and information that goes into your ads that is where the complexities are. So the biggest thing that we found is their creatives and their copy were just really poor. Like I mentioned, their warm traffic converted because they were very engaged, but we just found that their top of the funnel traffic and their cold traffic, they just didn't convert at all. Like they were almost not even profitable. And we pretty much narrowed it down to the point where it was like your copy and your creatives are just not resonating with new audience members. And so they didn't have multiple winning creatives. They were trying to scale, and they would always hit their head on this ceiling whenever they did try to scale because they just weren't resonating with their audience. So that was number one. The second thing is there was no irresistible offer. So a lot of the times, like we always preach to all of our clients, whether you are a like a high-end brand or you're in dropshipping, like you need to have an irresistible offer that really intrigues people. And you need to let people know that within your actual ad, whether it's in your creative or whether it's within your copy. Because the main thing is you're not actually trying to sell somebody in your ad. You're just your goal is to get them to click. And then you can let your landing page do the selling. So we just found that all their website traffic, they would click off the ad even at a low click-through rate, and then they just weren't converting. And so it was just a very interesting spot. So narrowed it down to really, we needed to incorporate an offer. And then we started to look through some of their most popular products, and we found, okay, these guys have, a very big gap of $40 products all the way up to like $750. But a lot of people were purchasing the $40 products, and we found that a lot of people were actually looking at the higher end products, but they just weren't really sold on it. So it kind of created a little bit of issues there within their average order value, their customer lifetime value as well too. People were coming back for the lower end products instead of going for the higher ticket stuff. So it just made things a little bit more difficult for their cost per purchase and cost per acquisition. So we wanted to start incorporating something in their funnel that allowed their customers to not only purchase the lower end products, but use that more so to get people in through the door and then purchase the high ticket products. So that was also a strategy that we had to create as well too.
And then for the ad creatives themselves, what do you think made the biggest difference? Was it just making better videos, more custom videos? Was it just making a lot of really good image ads, or just changing the actual selling points in the top of the ad copy? What made the most difference?
Yeah. I would say it's definitely a good combination. What we did, and I think I have it on the next slide, is we basically took every single form of creative that you can make. So basically an image, carousel, and video, and we created 2 different variants of each, and then we ran those per ad set. So the good thing is, like I said, they had the data. So we knew what audiences were profitable and what was working. So we just needed to resonate better. So what we really did is we incorporated a better offer. We incorporated a better call to action. And then we just changed up the creatives, and we really just made sure that we could really analyze and see what type of creative converted the best. And the good thing is a lot of their creatives were actually working in both like in image, video, and carousel. But the main thing is resonating with their audience. So I would say actually being able to resonate with their audience and speaking their language was probably the key difference maker in that whole scenario.
They were probably, since they're coming from dropshipping, they were probably just trying to create kind of like a dropshippy ad text and a dropshippy offer. And then they were trying to build a brand, but at the same time, their marketing was probably very buy, instead of actually understanding the customer, which is something really important too, that I talk to a lot of students and in the channel here, that maybe you have a already $1 million business or $1 million store. You just don't realize it because you're trying to be a marketer and trying to get all these people in the door, when you should really just try to change the wording in your ad copy. And 1 word, 2 words, a phrase or something can make a giant difference, which was, I think, a big thing about why you were so successful with this brand, because they already had something that worked okay, but they couldn't really scale it, be profitable. And they just had to do changes in how they actually presented themselves in their offer. So that's awesome. Let's keep going.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so what we did before launching the client's ads, this is key. So this is kind of keying into like what you were just mentioning, right? Because again, it's not actually, a lot of the times it's not how you set up the ads, it's what goes into it. So basically before we started, we always do a full account analysis. Now this obviously may change if someone's just starting a completely brand new store or brand, but basically what we did is we went into their Shopify account, Facebook dashboard, and their Google Analytics, and we analyzed everything from a 17-day view, 14-day, 30-day, 90-day, and lifetime view, just to make sure that we could really analyze every step, because obviously some ads might be profitable at maybe a 7-day view, but maybe not a 90-day view, right? So basically did a whole account analysis, checked out their ad creatives, their ad creative types, their ad copy, and then saw what was working and why it was working, and then what wasn't working, and tried to figure out why it wasn't. Then we built out really the customer avatar. This is one of the most important things. And our agency has really dialed in on optimizing our documents that help people really create a really thorough customer avatar, because it is so important. You basically will use it forever, and you're going to constantly be revising it as you go on and as you scale your brand, because it's just going to change. And this is what you're basically going to be using for your creatives and for your copy inspiration all the time. So we built out a really highly intensive customer avatar, basically what 4 or 5 of their customers would really look like. And then we could figure out the creatives and copy, which we could then go on and curate. And like I mentioned, we created basically 2 different variants of their video, their image, their carousel. So basically totaling 6 creatives per ad set that we are actually running. That might sound a little bit like overwhelming, maybe for like a new beginner and stuff. You don't need to do that. We had a good budget to work with. We didn't want to utilize their whole budget because we just didn't feel like it was necessary to, but they gave us a good budget. We really felt really confident in the analysis that we did. And so that's kind of the route that we went. But we found out very, very quick what was working and what wasn't working. But then the other part, which we didn't directly execute on, but we gave them guidance on, which was building the back end. So, just making sure that they have email campaigns in place, text campaigns, offering things that keep people who maybe aren't purchasing, but they're still engaged and they're intrigued, coming back, right? And not doing it in a salesman way, but doing it in a value-driven way. That's very key.
Especially with higher ticket products. Somebody's not gonna just land on a random store and buy a $700 product for no reason.
Yeah.
They need that follow-up, and no one really talks about this in dropshipping. They just talk about, how do I scale with just people coming to the door? My conversion rate is not low enough, but it's not high enough. But sometimes it's more about building the back end, like you just put in the slide, where you have the email sells you an extra 15-20%, the SMS bump or using SMS apps sells you an extra 15%, and that's what gets you profitable. That's definitely something that we should talk about more, honestly, because that's, especially for higher ticket products, it works so good.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I forget exactly what the statistic is, but I know on average, it's usually about 13 touch points that you need to make with the average customer for them to actually purchase, right? And so you can do that in very cost-effective ways if you're just good at collecting customer information, making those touch points, adding value to them. And we always encourage, like, on your back end, make sure it is always value driven, because people will appreciate that. So I forget exactly what they did with their email campaigns, but they did kind of like lookbooks. So they would kind of style out people and their models with like, products from their store. And their call to action was never to like, take advantage of this now, limited time offer. It was always like, shop this look, right? And then people would go in and they would actually shop that look, which is super cool. So it was really unique. They did a great job with how they set up their backend. It was awesome.
Very nice. So let's go to the next slide.
Yes. Okay. So how our agency structures client campaigns. I know this is a big one. I know besides all the, the fluff and stuff of like what goes into the ads and everything, people are always asking what actually goes into the campaign. So we keep things as simple as possible. And this just goes back to the fact of like setting up campaigns is actually very, very easy. So we break things down in really 3 different types of campaigns. And as you scale, there might be a little bit more, but just to keep it simple. So we have our top of the funnel conversion campaigns, which are all just interests and look like audience based. And sometimes even just a broad audience. Like we may even have like a, 18 to 65 plus. We keep it very broad. We even keep the detailed targeting expansion on, and then we just let it run and we just let Facebook optimize. So that's the top of the funnel. That's your cold traffic. And then we have our middle of the funnel, which is people who are your warm audience. So these are people who follow you on Facebook, on Instagram. They viewed your video ads, they've come to your website. And we also keep this very broad. We keep this at about 180 days. And then we have our hot traffic, which is our bottom of the funnel, which is all add to cart, initiate checkout, and purchase based. And that's again 180 days. And the reason why we keep it at 180 days, I want to preface this because we actually, pre iOS 14, we actually kept it to around 30 days to 90 days. And it was actually a little bit more of a complex breakdown of how we retargeted people. But with iOS 14, there's a lot less data that Facebook has to work with. So with expanding the actual day range and the timeline, it's actually going to give you a better ability to really hone in on the data that Facebook does have on your audience of people who have opted in for iOS 14. So that's why we'd like to keep it really broad on the timeline sort of spectrum.
Gotcha. And when you're targeting purchases, are you just trying to get a repeat purchase from those people?
Yes. Yeah. So those are more post purchases. What we will test usually, and I kind of left it out just to keep it simple, but we will include purchases in on the bottom of the funnel retargeting, but we sometimes will have a campaign that is more of a post purchase campaign. So it's showing people products that maybe they haven't seen before, but we know that they've purchased. So we know that they're really engaged, and then that's going to help us really increase that lifetime value for a customer.
Yeah. And also if they bought a product that's $50, maybe recommend the $500 product. So they
exactly. Yeah, it's like the entry level, and that was really our focus, because we recognize that so many of their customers are ordering those $40 products, and we're like, what's going on here? You guys have like $750 products, and so that's kind of what we used to kind of get them in the door, and then show them how good their brand was. And then once they were really in their funnel, they're seeing ads, they're getting texts, they're getting email campaigns. They're just getting so much value, right? So it really encourages them to purchase the more higher ticket products.
Very nice.
Yeah. So hopefully that all makes sense. We keep it very, very simple. Now, some minimum standard metrics and everything. I don't want to overcomplicate this, because I think, again, if you can view your whole Facebook dashboard from a view where you can analyze really the first touch point of when your ad is actually on someone's feed or their story or whatever, and what they're doing when they see that ad all the way to when they purchase. So that way you can really see and allocate, like, okay, is it the ad creative that's maybe not working? Is it the targeting that's maybe off? Is it the landing page? What's going on here? And so just a few metrics to really take into consideration is what people should be looking for with their click-through rate, which is really allocated towards their copy and their creative, is a 1.5 click-through rate. And this is for your top of the funnel. A 1.5 is good enough that you can actually gradually scale at a minimum. But the tough part about when people try to scale, especially in dropshipping, is if you have a low click-through rate, it's very, very difficult to scale, because your audience sizes are going to get a little bit smaller and your frequency is going to go up, and typically your cost per acquisition will also go up. And so you want to just make sure that you're maximizing on the amount of people clicking the ad and then going to your landing page. So we always find that usually whenever we do an account analysis of someone who's feels like they're hitting their head on the ceiling, it's because their click-through rate's so low and they're trying to scale and it's just not working. So we always recommend a minimum of a 1.5% click-through rate, but a good excellent standard is a 2%. Anything above a 2% for a top of the funnel is amazing.
And that can make a huge difference. I've seen people, for example, they think mine is 1.4. What's 0.1 gonna make of a difference? But that 0.1 might be an extra customer, and that extra customer might mean your ad set is profitable, and that ad set being profitable might mean your next duplicate is also profitable. And it's not linear. It's not 0.1, then I'm gonna get 0.1 more customers. It's really exponential. So that's
totally.
Definitely you should try to improve it as much as possible.
Yeah, 100%, right? Because it's one of those metrics where it's you can spend the same amount of money on your ads, but just get more traffic for the exact same amount of ad spend, right? So you want to take advantage of that. You want to really leverage that. And the way that I, at least with a lot of our consultation clients, we discuss, it's the way you should look at your click-through rate is your click-through rate tells you how well you're resonating with your audience. So if it's low, it means you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out how you can resonate better with them, right? And so that's really key there. And then a website conversion rate, because man, you could have a great click-through rate, but if your website conversion rate is low, it's going to be very tough to be profitable again. So again, a good minimum standard is about a 2%. But if you can aim for above a 4, that is amazing. This client was kind of in between, which is really good. But currently right now we have a client who is a student of yours, and they're doing 7 to 8%, which is just absurd. And I'm always telling him, I'm you got to show Rafael this, because this is crazy.
The high ticket one?
Sorry?
Is that the high ticket one or no?
No, they're not. They're not high ticket. I think they're selling like a $39.99 product. But it's like unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. It's crazy. But yeah, we recommend minimum standard 2%, but a good standard to aim for is 4%, and it's just minor optimizations. We always recommend don't make too many changes to a landing page at once, because you're never going to be able to identify which change is doing what. Make small changes each and every time, and then if it improves, great, keep it, and then keep on adding on or subtracting, right?
Okay, awesome. So we discussed that this was a brand doing okay already. They have that great foundation, which is really important. And a lot of people that, for example, you and I talk to, specifically me talk to, they want to find a Facebook ads expert, or they want the secret solution, or they want, that magic trick that's going to make them extremely profitable on Facebook. But in reality, if you're watching this, it's more about you need to get it most of the times by yourself or with a mentor, somebody that helps you, to that point where you're doing 3,000 a month, 5,000 a month, that you have a solid foundation, when then you can hire someone to run your Facebook ads, and that 5,000 can become, 50,000, 500,000 later on. And you can literally do those numbers, but you need to start off with, for example, like this brand, they start off with at least a very great presentation of their products, a nice following that they have, but they didn't have any profit and they didn't have any good return on their ad spend. They hired a really good Facebook ads marketer, and obviously you hired them, you scaled them, helped them grow their ROAS, helped them grow their profitability. And that's essentially how most of these successful case studies come from. So you do need to combine both building a brand and the actual Facebook ad side. So what would you say is the biggest obstacle to scaling this brand? What has been the hardest thing for you in terms of maybe the audience size was small, so you couldn't really find more audiences? Maybe a lot of ads were getting rejected, or maybe they had some sort of problem. So what was the biggest obstacle in this space? Because it's obviously not all rainbows. What was the worst thing?
Yeah, every brand has its challenges. There's no sunshine and rainbows all the time, right? So for us, the biggest thing was we really needed to make sure that their cost, their average order value was getting better, because we found that like with the products that they had, we could just generate such better results if people were just opting in for the higher ticket product. So for us, it was a lot about making multiple touching points. So utilizing a lot of their customer lists, their lookalike audiences. And even if we weren't running like a conversion-based ad, if we were running like maybe something more so targeted for video views or engagement, but targeting still their warmer audiences, not their colder audiences, we can make those touching points for way cheaper than what a conversion-based ad could do. We can be more strategic about it. So we're not maybe going in for the sale right there. If our goal was just to make a touching point, it's just to make a touching point, right? And I think what really resonated with that audience is they knew that we weren't trying to just sell them something. We were trying to add value. And I think that was very, very important, especially because this was a higher ticket brand that we were working with. So it was important that we earned their trust and we established some common ground before we really went in for the purchase. So that was really the biggest thing. So we collaborated quite extensively as a team. Like we would have basically weekly meetings just specifically for this client, because we knew they had so much potential, especially that first month. And we just needed to go through like the trial and errors of testing the creatives, the copy, how we structured the ads and everything. And that was probably the most challenging part. But once we got over that hump, it was just skyrocketed.
When you say add value, what exactly does that mean in terms of, for example, an offer? So add value, like you said in the email, it might be, shop the look instead of get it now for 50%. So, but what are other examples of that? How can people actually do it in their brands?
Yeah. So on your back end, it's definitely things like that. It's like if you're a fashion brand, it's like shop this look. If you're maybe like a pet brand, you can do like maybe something like a list of activities to do with your pets, right? Something you can be creative around it. So this again ties into the customer avatar, figuring out what your customer likes doing. Because if you're maybe have a product for dogs for hiking, well, maybe you can do something that is around hikes, right? So knowing your customer is very key. With your ads, it's important that you always have a good call to action, and it usually always leads leads people to your website. But in terms of adding value, it's more so not touching on, any sort of sale or anything that's going on, but it may be something like, I know one really good creative that they provided us, and I won't go too much in detail without giving away who they are, but basically they had a creative that kind of shared a testimonial of a client that was using their products and how they felt wearing it, right? And so that was a big thing for, I think, a lot of the other ladies who saw this ad, because when you put on clothing, and typically with clothing that you're spending a lot of money on, you want to feel good in it, right? And so with this ad, it was nice because the customer wasn't really trying to sell them anything. She was just sharing her experience and how the clothing made her feel. So that was really key. So I think adding value in the sense of touching on people's like emotional needs and what can emotionally connect them to your product. And again, it just kind of ties into like resonating well with your audience. So adding value in that sort of way through your ads. But again, there's probably a lot more you can do in terms of adding value on your back end in terms of email campaigns, text, and things like that.
Got it. That's a great strategy. People can use it, especially if you have a nice budget or a significant budget. You can definitely start out with that top level campaigns, providing value, getting the people in, and then retargeting with the actual sale instead of just trying to sell like everybody else. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for this case study, Dominic. If people actually want to reach out to you, maybe work with you, obviously they can go through our mentorship, and then you'll be in the group answering some questions, but how can they reach out to you? I know you have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I do have a YouTube channel where we do have a presence on social media. I mean, the best way to really identify if working with us is a really good fit for yourself is going to our website, which is www.pinnaclemedia-inc.com. And we do have a case study video there where you can watch. It's a 30-minute long video. It is actually with a client that was in Rafael's program, which is amazing. And so that was super cool. And so we just basically walk through that whole case study, go through everything. And if you feel like, a lot of the things that I'm mentioning resonate, then you can book a call with me personally, one-on-one. It's not going to be with anyone else. It's going to be with me. And then we can really identify and see if our agency can add that value to your brand.
That's awesome. And if you want to work with me as well and have Dominic also help you, he's also in the community and the mentorship, go ahead and book a call with the link in the description. The links for his videos and his offers are going to be in the description as well. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you on the next one, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching this case study. If you're interested in having me as your mentor and me and my team helping you grow your business along with our Facebook ads managers and our amazing community, make sure you click that second link in the description, book a one-on-one call with either me or somebody in my team. Let's see if we're the right fit for working together. Let's see if our mentorship can work for you and get you the results that you're looking for your business. Make sure you book a call. You can book it at any time you like, answer a couple of questions so we know more about your business. I look forward to helping you, and make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, that like button, and check the other video that's gonna pop up here on the top winning products to sell right now in order to get amazing results for your business. Check the video right now, the top products to sell now. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, that like button. I'll see you on the next one.